Yeah, sorry, Luke. My bad.
Starting out right here at Pier 55, Argosy Cruises started out in 1949 as the Spring Street Water Taxi. They had one captain, his name was Lynn Campbell, and he took people out from Pier 55 to the Kitsap Peninsula. Captain Lynn Campbell was a bit of a talker as he went out to the peninsula and back. He would talk about the history of the area and current events. After a little while, he noticed that people would get on his boat, ride it out to the Kitsap Peninsula, and then get right back on and ride back. He realized that was because he was such a talker, and they just wanted to hear about the area. So he made a career move, switched it from the Spring Street Water Taxi to Seattle Harbor Tours, and started the historic 1-hour harbor tour, which you are riding today. Up on the right-hand side of the vessel, a lot of people actually made their fortunes up in Alaska. Here in Seattle, however, it was another story. Given that Seattle was the gateway to Alaska, everyone would come through and buy the supplies that they needed here in Seattle. A few notable companies that started in Seattle during that time: Nordstrom's shoe store, as well as the United Postal Service. The steamship Portland didn't actually go into the pier with the big white wheel. Between it and the next pier, the Seattle Aquarium, they're in Seattle, and she came down with a case of asthma. So they trained Mishka to press her nose against a specific part of her tank. It would dispense her medication along with a treat, and she is now the world's only self-medicated otter. Up on the hillside, you can see a green building, some white trim across the window here. So Seattleites decided they would meet the producers, and on that first day, everyone who came was sold out within the hour. Since then, it has been the longest running open-air farmers market in the United States. It's also the site of Seattle's grossest tourist attraction, that being our gum wall. So if you want to leave a piece of yourself here in Seattle, chew a piece of gum and then stick it onto the wall. We're now passing the Norwegian Encore, very big cruise ship, one of the larger ones that comes through Seattle. It is sitting at the Bell Street Cruise Terminal. The Bell Street Cruise Terminal was Seattle's first cruise ship terminal. It was built in the year 2000. However, in that year that it was completed, there were exactly 0 ships to come through here. However, they built it with the motto, if we build it, they will come. And well, as you can see, we do have cruise ships here today. When you're telling all of your friends about the great time you had in Seattle, showing them the pictures, the first thing that'll come to mind when they look at this picture, what's that red spiky thing at the bottom? It's a sculpture of one of our local animals here in the Puget Sound. Basically, a lot of the companies which bundle your airfare with a hotel, bundling your trip together, a lot of those are done through Expedia.com, even if they don't carry the Expedia name directly. Another thing that we are well known for here in Seattle is our fish. Across the water from Expedia's headquarters is a tan building with the letter C followed by 175 before they would ever get it back to port. So if they put it in the hold with the rest of the fish, then that would ruin their entire catch. There's no point in going out. However, that changed with the introduction of factory trawlers, those being ships that can catch the pollock and then process it right on board. Since then, of the skyline, due to the angles, it looks much closer to the skyline than it actually is. It looks like one of the 4 taller buildings in the skyline. Don't be tall. However, before they built it, they were still in the design phase. The FAA came to the owner of the building and was like, we have multiple major airports just to the south of the city. There's Boeing Field, in which all of Boeing's exports go out of, as well as Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, in which most of you probably flew into. And so to ensure that they didn't have to reroute all of the planes going into those 2 airports, they asked that the building not go over 1,000 feet tall. There was a problem, however, as the owner of the building was very excited about the new building he was making, and so he had already sold all. Any building that is taller than the Smith Tower has been built since the city Seattle is. Now you have a better view of the Space Needle a bit further away from the rest of the city, and you notice that there are not a lot of tall buildings around it. That is intentional. They've actually created building restriction in the area of the Seattle Center to make sure that a study was done a few years back in which they took a picture of the Seattle skyline. They just edited out the Space Needle. Then they just walked around Seattle and asked the local, what city are you looking at? Over 75. At first, they found them where you would expect for things in the Pacific Ocean, all along the west coast of the United States, some down in Australia, Japan, China. Well, after a few years, they started finding them up in Great Britain and Finland. They realized that they had gone up into the Arctic Circle, frozen, thawed out, and then fallen back down into magnitude earthquake with its epicenter at CenturyLink Field. I know what you're thinking, that's baloney. Fans can't cause earthquakes by cheering for their team. Well, a couple years later, Beyonce came to town, went to CenturyLink Field, got the single ladies of Seattle so riled up, they caused a 1.9 magnitude earthquake, again with its epicenter at CenturyLink Field.
All right, well, thank you, Daniel, for that great tour today. Well, folks, like Daniel said, we're on our final approach to the dock. Right now is a great time to start looking around your seats, gathering things. I didn't want to leave anything on board this afternoon. We're going to go ahead and shut down our forward stairwells. We'll ask everyone to make their way to the back of the boat. There's a second set of stairs there.